Jay Moore, number one, every time he joins us on a Wednesday. God, looking great again. I mean, he's got the perfect setting for people that are watching 1520 of the Zone TV. The sun is coming in. It's brightening up his face.
Yeah.
He's showing off the guns. Good morning.
Morning, guys. Thanks for that intro.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking good as always.
Yeah.
You look confident. You look very confident.
Yeah, I'm in the office. I got in here a little earlier, so you guys got to see me in my car. So I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to talk about beating up on the Hoosiers.
Okay. All right. So, I think you missed an opportunity last night on Big Red Wrap Up to go, who's your daddy? That's okay, because Dr. Gold was in the building and you got to be respectful.
Yeah, you got to class it up a little bit. We could have done that when Bo was there. That would have been definitely a conversation for Bo, but with Dr. Gold,
yeah. I think a bigger question today for Bo is why did Carl get sucker punched? But that's beside the point.
What the hell?
Yeah, that was wild. I don't know if you heard about that, Jay. Let's start here because I think we're all doing this, trying to figure out Indiana, but also trying to figure out Nebraska off a bye week. In your opinion, what is Nebraska walking into on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. in Bloomington?
They're walking into a really good football team. I get it. I understand that they haven't played, a very tough schedule. And, argument on the other side is, well, some people are like, well, Nebraska hasn't exactly played, the best teams either. And I get that. But they're running into a fantastic offense. Kurt Cignetti knows how to call offenses. He knows how to utilize talent. A lot of this talents come over from James Madison, a bunch of the other transfers, but this offense is high powered. They'll spread you out. They will get it to, they'll get to four or five different wide receivers, and they'll run the ball well too. And Rourke has put it where only his guys can get it. He's been very efficient, and Nebraska's going to get tested. I think this is the best offense they'll see since Colorado. And I know Colorado wasn't running all cylinders, and that was probably the best first half of football Nebraska's played in a long time. But I think a similar game plan needs to go on that Nebraska had against Colorado, and that is getting after Rourke. You got to stop the run first, though. Ellison has the ability to run the football inside the tackles, outside the tackles. The RPO game is strong, but you stop that run game and you get them in obvious passing downs. And I like where our defense is situated and where it can handle their strong wide receiver units. So it's going to be a tough game. Their offense is really, really good. They're efficient. They're high powered. All the stats show it. Defensively wise, I think they can attack Indiana. There's some opportunities there. We'd love to see them start running the football more efficiently. But if not, got to play complementary football and use your weapons on the outside and your good quarterback to get the ball to Banks, Naor, Fedoni, Barney, Lloyd, and so on and so forth. So it's gonna be a tough test. It's gonna be a battle. I think up and down. Could be some points scored potentially. But I just don't think that obviously Indiana hasn't seen anyone quite like Nebraska defensively, and just how that defensive line plays and how they're dealing with some guys on the interior. So that's kind of where I think the game's going to fall is Nash and Ty and Jamari, and MJ and Princewell and those front four guys. This is their type of ball game where they can really separate themselves and help Nebraska take care of business.
Jay, it was an interesting question that was presented to Kurt Cignetti during his weekly press conference. They were talking about a lot of the yards after contact that the receivers get. And if you look at essentially four guys that are anywhere between 17 and 29 receptions a game, they spread it out a little bit, but the yards after contact, a reporter had asked Cignetti if there was a way to scheme to where you're getting into situations where those guys are able to break through those tackles. And he just talked about the size of his wide receivers and how they're big guys and they're able to jostle loose. So if you're the Nebraska linebacking and secondary core, the second and third level of this defense, and that's been a big part of their success offensively, what's being emphasized not only this week, but even going back to last week against a group like that where there's not one or two guys that they're really keying in on?
Yeah, obviously, first contact, right? You got to be, Tony White, always says it. What does he say? Aggressive contact. I can't remember exactly the words he has, but that first guy there, you might not get him down, but you got to come with it. You got to be aggressive, and we've talked about tackling here. You got to come with bad intentions. Uh, Dominant contact. That's what he called it. It just came to me. You got to have dominant contact. They're going to catch some balls. Nebraska plays a lot of zone coverage. Even they play man. It's timing, right? You got to get them down, and sometimes getting them out of bounds, that's a plus. Even after they catch it for a 4, 5, 6 yard gain on a little out route, right? But you have to have that dominant contact, come with bad intentions. And if they're big, Buford's not the biggest guy, right? If you stand them up, let your other buddies come in there and attack and start stripping that ball out. And you start getting in there, and then guess what? They start getting that thing jostled a little loose. They're going to start getting down. So they're going to be forced to tackle, and they're going to be forced to get those guys down, just like any other game. But I tell you what, Nebraska's played against, all camp and through spring ball. They've played big wide receivers. Nayer's huge. Banks is huge. Fanoni is a big target. So Nebraska, they've had similar bodies that they've gone against and scrimmage against. But the biggest thing for me in that secondary is now if you have a Tommy Hill who's coming back healthy, and you have a guy like Sierra Wright who has stepped up in his place and played really, really well the last couple of weeks, how do you not keep both those guys on the field at the same time?
Yeah.
And you start making some tweaks, right? Maybe you move Buford in the back, and you start tweaking with that where, Buford played on, in the safety position before, but that's an interesting concept that I don't know if you guys have chatted about or brought up yet, but it's what do you start to do? Because you always want your best players on the field, and Sierra Wright deserves an opportunity to continue to play, and so does Tommy Hill.
So this is an offense, as you were alluding to, and it's kind of dynamic starts with a signal caller, but only 9 of their 39 touchdowns, Jay, have come from outside the red zone. So in the red zone, they're good. Nebraska's had fairly good red zone defense, still haven't given up a rushing touchdown. Is it, and you can attack this from your mentality when you played, from the 20s to the 20s, yeah, there might be big plays. Is it the mindset or is it the field shrinks that you might give up some big chunk plays, but man, once they get to the 20 onto the goal line, you bow up and keep them out of the end zone?
I think it's both. I think it's getting across to your defense that holding offenses, especially nowadays, the 3 points is a win. Now, hell, if Nebraska kicks a field goal, people might go to the streets, right, and celebrate if they can kick a field goal and get 3 points in the red zone. But I think defensively, it's a mindset, but also it's hard, man. Scoring in the red zone, that field shrinks. It's tough. You can't spread people out. You can't get those over-under routes. Teams tend to run, not more man, but a lot of cover 2 in the red zone. So that makes it a little tougher, especially running the football. So it's hard. It's hard to, when you can't, run people off, attack certain areas of the field, especially the middle of the field. Really the most vulnerable parts, and you see this a ton in NFL in red zone football, is kind of that back of the end zone, right underneath the goalpost. And you see that's one of the most vulnerable places to attack in the passing game. But it's a mindset that once they get down there, they might get the yards, right? It's always the yards versus points argument, right? And we've heard this for 10 plus years now. It's you holding to 3 points, that's a win. And the offense might think, hey, we got points, but defensively, that's controlling momentum, that's controlling the scoreboard and getting off the field. And listen, you just try to get that ball back in your hands to the offense as quick as possible, and knowing that they're going to get 7 versus their 3, and you're going to be fine.
If you're looking at this from the offense, from Nebraska's standpoint, the one thing that maybe doesn't get enough discussion is Indiana defensively has done some good things this year too. They've got a very good pass rusher. If you've taken the first 6 games of this offense, what are the things, given what Indiana does, but what are the things that this offense can lean on that would make you feel confident that if they have to score more than 24 points, if they have to score more than 28 points, that they can do that?
Yeah, I feel confident that they find a way, and it's not in the most traditional sense. I think that Nebraska fans want to see where it's dominant, running the football, and you're running it 70% of the time, and you're getting 3, 4, 5 yards of crack. It's multiple, so they're going to try to, they're going to run power and outside zone and inside zone and counters and things like that. But if it's not there, guess what? You're probably going to see some, Ja'Cory Barney gets more sweep looks, and just in situations like that, you might see Bonner continuing to get more carries out of the trips formation, or a wing set, right, and almost like a sweep situation. You're going to have screenplays, right, to Emmett or to Ramir, and those are ran fantastic. Dylan's done a fantastic job in that area of the game. And then guess what? In third and long, or even whatever the situation is, we're going to drop back there, and you're going to find those big targets at wide receiver or tight end, and Nayor or Banks and Fedoni, and Barney's been fantastic out of the slot in the pass game as well. So I just feel confident that Satterfield has the weapons, and he's going to do his best to keep the opposing defense just kind of off kilter a little bit, and just kind of guessing and never, this is the time of year too where teams are starting to get tendencies. Through 6 games, you kind of see what they like to do in certain down and distances. Through a bye week, you can start throwing some tendency breakers in there, and get people, D coordinators a little confused and not trusting exactly what they had coming into the game. But overall, it's hard. I wish there was one thing that Nebraska, you could say they're going to run the football. I can't confidently say that, but I can confidently say they're going to find a way, one way or the other, to move the football in a multiple different way. And maybe that is a strength of this team. It's different, it's balanced, it's complementary, and they always seem to find a way when they need to make a play. They got to convert a third and long. It's Banks over the middle, or Nayo over the middle, or Fedoni, whatever it is. They seem to have the right play call at the right time. Now, if it's executed properly, but this ability to figure it out in multiple ways to move the football against defenses.
What if you're the offensive coordinator and you sit down with your quarterback and you say, Dylan, what do you think you can do? What do you think you do best? How would you go about, because I'm starting to use the phrase, man, I wish they would let him just cook. But there's still there's a regulator on him. In this game, if you're designing the game plan to play to Dylan's strengths and away from his weaknesses, what does that look like?
Man, I tell you what, I think he's best in shotgun. It's more of a pro style look, right? I think it's what he's good at when he gets his time. I think where he's tend to struggle is when he's got to get the ball quickly out of his hands, and most quarterbacks will. I just think about the pick he threw to Rutgers, right? A quick fake to the running back, and boom, it pops. He has the ability to use his eyes, use his body, use his vision to counter what defenses are doing in coverage, to open up those areas. When he's in shotgun and he's able to get 3-4 seconds, he's dangerous. He is really, really good. And when he has the time, and most of the time this year, he's gotten it. Even with we've had obviously a lot of injuries to our left tackle, and Gatula stepped in, and I think has done a really good job this year. But for him, I think when the time is there and we're pressing down the field, his ability to find the guys and look off safeties and look off corners and drop it in there to Nayo or to Banks, Fedoni, wherever it is where he's been the best. Play action's been rather good, but anytime you want him to, do something quick, he just doesn't look as comfortable. But his ability to stand back there, and I think most quarterbacks are in a very similar way, right? Where they have time, they'll pick you apart. But that's where he's had the most success this year, and let's get him those opportunities where, where it's second and manageable, third manageable, and you can go back there and say, hey, let's get Fedoni, let's get Banks out there, let's get some route tree combinations going where we know where Dylan is comfortable and he knows where he's going with it versus whatever coverage is out there.
The mentality going into this game, we've touched on a little bit. And you heard some of the players talking about this yesterday. Dylan talked about a little bit more of the underdog role. Emmett Johnson, I'd even say Ty Robinson to an extent. I like the part of what Ty Robinson, he was talking about Terrence Knighton, of using essentially the hunted hunting the hunted. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, that's not, we're necessarily the underdog. We feel like we're a winning program. We're going after another winning program. Is there a right way mentally how Nebraska, they're an underdog on the road by the point spread, but
Right.
how they should be looking at their overall presence in this game.
Yeah, I think this is kind of the first game. I mean, obviously Nebraska's, I think, has been favored in every game they've gone into this year, and it's your first road. The Purdue game, you're favored at Purdue by 10 or a little over 10. I think this one it's an opportunity, right? I'm thinking back to last year where some of those, the road games and at Illinois, and I can't remember the points was, but this is a great opportunity to see what this team is made of. This is a great opportunity to kind of show the country and the nation what this team is made of. And I love the situation they're in. I think Coach Rule has really embraced that underdog mentality. Even though you're 5-1, teams still don't respect you. Teams, the nation, right, still is kind of like, I'm not so sure about Nebraska. They struggled to beat Illinois, or they didn't beat Illinois. They struggled in the first half against Purdue. They struggled against Rutgers. It doesn't help when the teams that they played go ahead and get beat the next week. Illinois loses to Penn State. Rutgers loses to Wisconsin. Purdue loses badly to Wisconsin. So I think there's that dynamic in it as well. But you got to love this opportunity, man. You got all the eyeballs will be on you at big noon, and it's the time to kind of just put your foot down and say, hey, we're for real. This is what we have to do. And you can't really put this game on the pedestal either. I don't think it's like, oh my gosh, we got to do something vastly different. We got to do something completely out of this world to win this football game. No, just continue to do what you do and how you've prepared over winter conditioning and over spring ball and over fall camp and what you've done to the 6 games. Continue to do what you do. But now let's just do it better, and let's do it more efficiently. And let's play a full 4 quarters of football, because they haven't done that yet, and go in there and show the country, like, hey, we're for real. Yeah, we respect Indiana. They're a hell of a football team. They got a good football coach. They got a great quarterback. But we're, all the analytics are against us. It shows Indiana's a much better team. But, it doesn't matter with analytics when someone comes there and punches you in the mouth. So I think that's what the mindset they got to come in there and do. Because Indiana hasn't seen a physical team yet of Nebraska's stature defensively. So I think it's that opportunity to come in there and say, hey, we're going to give these body blows, and then when that third quarter comes, that fourth quarter comes, it's time for that knockout shot. And it's no time comes up better to do that than at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning.
Fantastic stuff. Good stuff last night. Thank you for always joining us on Wednesday. And I think we have a better understanding of what Nebraska and Indiana are going to present. Have a wonderful day and a great rest of the week.
Thanks, boys. We'll talk to you next week.